Does your Labradoodle sometimes look hilariously clueless, then somehow receive extra hugs, softer voices, and more attention than ever right after making that mistake? That moment may look like pure silliness, but many Labradoodles are quietly studying something much more important than the command itself: your emotional reaction. They are an extremely observant breed, blending quick learning with strong social sensitivity. So small changes in your face, tone, and energy matter deeply. When a Labradoodle tilts its head, pauses dramatically, or stares with wide, innocent eyes, that behavior can become a powerful social tool. Not because the dog is plotting like a person, but because dogs repeat actions that consistently bring comfort, connection, amusement, or rewarding emotional feedback. If acting adorably confused makes you laugh, york, kneel down, cuddle closer, or speak in a sweeter voice, your dog notices that pattern immediately. Over time, the dog may begin offering that same charming mistake more often, especially in moments when it wants reassurance, engagement, or closeness. So what looks like fake stupidity is usually learned behavior, shaped by affection, repetition, and the Labradoodle's sharp ability to read human responses. This breed was developed to be both intelligent and highly people-focused, which means emotional attention can become just as valuable as food. That is why some Labradoodles seem to know exactly when to hesitate, fumble gently, or lean into a cute misunderstanding at home. They are not trying to fool you in a moral sense. They are discovering which version of themselves gets the warmest response. A head tilt may begin as simple curiosity, but if that movement repeatedly earns smiles and praise, it can grow into a habit. The same goes for pretending not to understand a familiar cue until you bend closer, repeat yourself softly, and turn training into affection. From the dog's perspective, the lesson becomes very clear. Being slightly helpless sometimes creates a stronger emotional bridge with the owner nearby. That does not mean the Labradoodle lacks intelligence. In many cases, the opposite is true, because the behavior requires sharp social pattern recognition. These dogs often monitor not only words, but pacing, posture, eye contact, tension, and whether your mood becomes warmer after their reaction. Some Labradoodles discover that being competent ends the interaction quickly, and while being adorably uncertain, keeps the human emotionally engaged for longer. That difference matters a lot to a dog that thrives on companionship, because attention itself can feel like the real reward. If your dog slowly places the wrong paw, blinks up at you, and waits, it may be checking what happens next. When your answer is laughter, petting, and extra conversation, the behavior becomes reinforced even if you never intended to teach it. This is why owners sometimes say, "My dog knows exactly what I mean," but suddenly acts babyish when everyone starts watching. The Labradoodle is not performing for an audience in a theatrical way, yet it can absolutely notice where attention becomes richest. Many of these dogs are emotionally delicate, so cute confusion may also function as a safe behavior when they feel slightly unsure. Instead of risking failure directly, the dog offers softness, slowness, and charm, which often protects connection even when it misses the cue. That emotional safety matters because sensitive dogs often care deeply about keeping the social atmosphere relaxed, gentle, and encouraging around them. So the behavior can come from two layers at once: learned reward seeking and a need to stay emotionally secure. This is where owners need to observe carefully, because not every adorable mistake means the same thing in every Labradoodle. Sometimes the dog truly wants playful attention, but other times it is distracted, overstimulated, worried, tired, or leaning too heavily on reassurance. A dog that repeatedly acts confused only during training may be showing a learned pattern. But context still tells the deeper story. Does it happen more when guests are present, when your voice becomes excited, or when the session feels longer than usual? Does the dog brighten instantly after affection, then repeat the same cute error again in almost the exact same way? That kind of repetition often suggests the behavior has been shaped by outcome, not by lack of understanding or low intelligence. On the other hand, if your Labradoodle seems scattered, avoids eye contact, yawns often, or cannot settle, something else may be happening. The dog may be mentally overloaded, emotionally dependent, or mildly anxious, and the cute behavior is simply the version you notice. That is why the solution is not to become colder, but to reward more wisely and read the full pattern. Your goal is not to remove sweetness from the relationship. It is to stop accidentally paying extra for confusion at the wrong moments. When the dog calmly follows a cue, settles with confidence, or thinks independently without acting helpless, that is when praise matters most. By shifting affection toward steady behavior, you teach the dog that competence also keeps connection alive and emotionally rewarding. This helps a sensitive Labradoodle feel safe without needing to perform uncertainty every time it wants your attention or softness. Short daily training works especially well here because it creates repeated chances to reward clarity before cute confusion takes over again. Keep commands simple, timing clean, and sessions light enough that the dog can succeed without emotional pressure building too high. If the dog misses a cue, avoid turning the moment into an accidental cuddle festival before it has another chance. Reset calmly, guide clearly, then reward the correct response with warmth so the dog links success with closeness, not confusion. That balance is important because Labradoodles do not just learn commands. They learn emotional choreography inside everyday interactions with their people. They remember which version of behavior gets laughter, which gets eye contact, and which brings your body closer in a room. Even a gentle sigh, a softened expression, or repeating the cue in a nurturing voice can become part of that lesson. To the dog, those details are not background noise. They are information about what behavior successfully changes the human environment. If adorable hesitation reliably unlocks your full attention, the Labradoodle may keep using it long after understanding the actual cue perfectly. That is why many owners feel shocked when their supposedly goofy dog suddenly solves a problem the second rewards change. The intelligence was there all along, but the dog's emotional learning had simply made a different strategy feel more profitable. This does not make the dog manipulative in a cruel way. It makes the dog adaptive, social, and highly relationship aware. And with a breed like the Labradoodle, relationship awareness is often one of the strongest forces shaping daily behavior patterns. The more emotionally expressive the owner is, the easier it can become for the dog to map what earns tenderness fastest. That means loving owners can unintentionally build the habit simply because they respond so warmly to vulnerable-looking moments. You are not doing something wrong by being affectionate. You just need to direct that affection toward the behavior you want. Praise the calm sit, the confident recall, the focused eye contact, and the successful response before the cute detour appears. Then, save extra soothing for moments of real stress. Not every playful stumble that your dog has learned looks irresistible. This distinction protects both training and emotional health because the dog stops depending on fake uncertainty to feel connected. A balanced Labradoodle should feel loved when being capable, not only when acting small, confused, or adorably dependent on human rescue. That is especially important in sensitive dogs, because constant reinforcement of helplessness can slowly weaken confidence in everyday problem solving. The dog may begin checking you too often instead of trying, waiting for emotional rescue instead of using its own skills. Over time, That can make a smart dog look less steady than it really is, especially in new situations. So watch for moments when your Labradoodle already knows the task, yet pauses theatrically the instant your attention sharpens. That pause may be less about confusion and more about inviting the interaction style the dog has learned to value. In many homes, the pattern becomes strongest when owners are busy, tired, or unintentionally inconsistent with how they respond. During those times, the dog may discover that cute helplessness is the fastest way to pull you fully back in. Again, this is not dishonesty in the human sense. It is emotionally shaped behavior built through repeated social reward. Us dogs live inside consequences, and for a people-sensitive breed, affection can shape behavior as strongly as treats or toys. So the real question is not, is my Labradoodle pretending? But what has my dog learned works beautifully with me? That question shifts the focus away from blame and toward understanding, which is exactly where better training usually begins. Once you see the behavior as reinforcement rather than mischief, your response becomes calmer, clearer, and much more effective. You stop arguing with the dog emotionally and start teaching what kind of attention follows confidence, focus, and appropriate effort. That change often reveals a different side of the Labradoodle, one that is bright, capable, and eager to engage sincerely. The dog no longer needs to lean so hard on cute confusion, because connection is no longer trapped behind that performance. Instead, your affection becomes predictable, balanced, and available during both successful moments and ordinary calm moments throughout the day. That predictability lowers emotional guesswork, which helps sensitive dogs relax and show their true intelligence more consistently. A confident Labradoodle still stays adorable, still seeks closeness, and still uses charm, but no longer relies on acting lost. You will often notice quicker responses, steadier focus, and fewer dramatic pauses once the reward pattern becomes clearer. The dog begins trusting that doing things right does not reduce love. It simply makes communication smoother and more secure. And that may be the most important lesson here, because many cute habits are really conversations shaped by our reactions. Your Labradoodle is always learning what version of itself keeps your heart open, your voice soft, and your attention close. When you reward confidence as lovingly as you reward cuteness, the dog no longer has to choose between competence and connection. That is when the breed's real brilliance tends to show, not as a performance, but as relaxed intelligence inside trust. So yes, your Labradoodle may sometimes act adorably clueless for extra affection, but the deeper truth is even more touching. It is not trying to become less intelligent. It is trying to stay deeply connected in the language you keep rewarding. If you guide that language gently, your dog can keep the sweetness while finally showing the confidence that was there all along.